Hello, thank you for being with me today and for joining me on this aromathology journey into cedarwood. For those of you who don't know, I'm Elizabeth Ashley. I am the creator of the Secret Healer Aromatherapy Manuals, and I've spent the last 4 years working on a book about lemon balm, Melissa essential oil, and discovered that there were ancient priestesses called Melissae. Melissae means bee. And so I've spent all these years learning different aspects of how the Melissa priestesses, bee priestesses of ancient Greek and earlier, use meditations and different tools to come into a different way of being. And so today we are going to travel with cedarwood to learn the cedarwood way of being. If you enjoy this work, please do like and subscribe and make sure you share with your friends. Melissa will always give back to the earth, and I love the idea that the priestess devours fragrance like a bee. But we spend a lot of time taking resources from the earth, and perhaps no more critically than cedarwood actually. And so it's very nice for me to be able to give something back to the world in terms of my work. But also, I hope that you'll join me in this communal meditation to send healing to different parts of the world and to the earth that need it. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the cedarwood way of being. I want you to become very aware of your breath, how it travels in and out of your body. How the first breath inwards is a breath back to yourself. And as it leaves the body, takes all of the pain and stress of the world with it. Breathing in pure, clean moments. Breathing out the past, breathing in the future and leaving behind the past. And with every breath that you take, allow the breath to drop deeper, taking you further into relaxation. And allow the breath to drop down to the womb space, the void of creation, with the knowledge that women are not the only people who have a womb space. The energy space still exists if you've had a hysterectomy, or the men have the energetic center of the hara, the place of identity, of will and creation, the oracular center, the place of the darkness, where everything is possible. And I'd like you to consider how the shape of a woman's womb echoes the shape of a bee's head. The antenna arcing around the fallopian tubes. The proboscis reaching down through the lower mouth, down into the earth space to connect with nature and the timeless energy of all that is. Cedarwood may be one of the oldest sacred plants that we know of. The first mention of it comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, a series of Sumerian poems that date to around 2100 BCE. The most complete version was written as far back as 12th century BCE by the Babylonians. In the story, Gilgamesh travels for 6 days from his home in Uruk to the cedar forest, which was a divine shady forest that was fought over by demigods and humans. It was said that the cedars were protected by Mesopotamian gods, which gave a rise to another name for the trees, the Cedars of God. It's said that Gilgamesh himself used cedarwood to build his great city, and that the gods were pleased. Cedar also appears in the Psalms of King David and was said to have covered the entirety of King Solomon's temple, who built his temple from stone but then covered every surface both inside and out with cedar and beautifully carved it with all manner of plants and flowers. The theme of gods being housed in cedarwood, and indeed the spirits of the ancestors, permeates the whole of its mythology. It's believed that human souls can also be contained within cedar. There's a Cherokee legend that said that the Cherokee people asked for it always to be day, then always to be night, and the great Creator granted them their prayer, and it was always day, and then it was always night. But of course nothing could grow without the sun, and many people died of starvation. The people finally beseeched the Creator to return the balance of day and night, which the Creator did. But the Creator was sad for the loss of so many people. So he created the cedar tree and placed the spirits of the dead inside of the tree. In many legends across many Native American cultures, the cedar is said to house deities or powerful spirits that will protect the people. One story is of Lone Man, who helped first Creator to manifest the world, and then was born into the flesh. But before he leaves his people, he asks them to create a cedar pole as a totem and to paint it red. The cedar is his body, which will protect his tribe from all harm. Cedarwood played a huge part in the temples of ancient Egypt, and even today, if you visit the Temple of Horus at Edfu, you can see splinters of cedarwood still at the hinges of the door, and it seems likely that cedarwood formed the doorways of most of the temples in order to quieten the mind and to remove negativity and to create a hallowed space. Aromatherapist Valerie Ann Warwood describes how cedarwood was used in ancient Egypt in a way that seems to be a precursor to early distillation. That they would place small twigs and chippings of cedarwood into a bowl and light it. And as the smoke burned, volatiles would be trapped in the cloths they had placed above it. Those volatiles would be squeezed out and the oil collected to use in mummification. The god of wrapping the mummy and escorting the souls of the dead was Anubis. Anubis has a myth associated to him, connected with a cedar berry and a prediction to his brother that he would die as the cedar died and he would rise again. When the pharaoh died and was mummified, he was placed into his tomb with all of the equipment that it was believed he needed for the afterlife. In pits surrounding the Great Pyramid have been found several solar barges. It was believed that the pharaoh would climb into his solar barge and travel across the sky known as the Am Duat. There he would meet with Osiris, and together they would travel through Am Duat, where it was said that the souls of the dead went buzzing around like bees. From there they would collect the sleeping gods and travel across the sky in the solar barge to resurrect the sun god Re. Many solar barges have been found, always made of cedarwood. The reasons for using cedar in funeral arrangements are practical as well as spiritual. They are tremendously insect repellent, rodent repellent, and in the cases of the boats, they are also incredibly water repellent. Cedarwood makes wonderful bee hives. The ancient Greeks believed that the bees were the messengers of God and psychopomps of the soul, escorting the souls of the dead and bringing back the souls of the newborn. The Greeks believed that the ancient Egyptians were a holy race, and often you'll see them reciting stories of their gods and goddesses, and indeed syncretizing them to bring them together. Plutarch, the Greco-Roman historian, tells the story of Isis and Osiris in a manner that's very similar to the story of Demeter. Demeter, the bee goddess, Osiris, the bee king. The story begins with Osiris as a pharaoh, a popular, charismatic man, very loved by his people. He was married to his sister wife. His brother, Set, was not impressed at how much adulation he was affording, and being next in line to the throne, plotted to overthrow him. He found the most beautiful cedar tree, had it felled and made into an extraordinary box. Beautiful box inlaid with all precious metals and ebony. and had it made exactly to the size of Osiris. Set through a party and brought out the beautiful gift he had made for his brother and invited him to try. Asked him to lie into the box, which of course fitted him exactly, fastened down the lid quickly and threw it into the Nile. The cedar coffin travelled down the Nile for many, many a moon, on choppy waters and still waters, until eventually it headed to the city of Byblos in Mesopotamia and smashed into a tree. The tree was vigorous and strong and healthy, and over time it grew around the coffin, encasing it and holding it. The king of Byblos found the tree and thought it was astonishing. So big and beautiful, he cut down the tree, unaware of the coffin being inside, and took it in to build a pillar inside of the temple. The breath of fame took word to Isis of the beautiful cedar pole that lived at Byblos, and so she travelled there and sat by the side of a stream and wept for the loss of her lover. There she encountered 4 beautiful maids, servants of the queen. She befriended them by dressing their hair beautifully and pouring over them with ambrosial perfume. When the maids returned to the palace, the queen said, "I must know this woman who breathes such elixirs of loveliness." And the maids brought Isis to the palace. Isis instantly enchanted the queen. The queen thought she was wonderful and asked her if she would consider staying at the palace, working as a nursemaid to her son. Isis adored the son and took great care of him, and at night tried to make him immortal by lying him in the hearth in the flames of the fire. And as the flames burned away his mortality, she converted herself into a swallow. Transformed into a bird, she would head into the main palace throne room and sadly fly round and round the beloved pillar. One night, of course, inevitably, the queen walked past the nursery to find Isis absent and her beloved child in the arms of the fire. The child, in safe slumber, was dreaming of being a bird, kept safe in the safety of the dreamland. He had no understanding of the fire, but his mother screamed so loud he awoke, terrified, had a heart attack and died. The queen screamed at Isis, "How could you do this to me?" Isis, repentant, showed herself as goddess and resurrected the child. The king and queen were so grateful and asked what could they do in return. And Isis explained the story of the pillar, which they gave back to her to take home. Archaeology does attest to there being a close relationship between Egypt and the city of Byblos, Byblos was the capital of the Phoenician civilization, which we would now know as Lebanon. In the time of the ancient Greeks, it was said that the cedar forests stretched for miles. However, when they were counted in the 1800s, only 20 of the trees remained. Cedar holds an energy of protection, of being able to shake yourself of shame when things have been done to you, of holding the spirit of the ancestors, of wiping away the lessons of materialism when they have become corrupt. It's a sacred oil, a holy oil that derives from the power of the word. Cedar means power. Often other trees are used in place of cedar. Thuya, for instance, is the eastern white cedar. Thuya comes from the Latin word to sacrifice, or thusia, which means burnt offering. The story of Osiris and Isis does not end on their return to Egypt. Set furious that even the body of the brother who can take away his claim to the throne cannot come back to Egypt. He locates the coffin and smashes it to pieces. He cuts Osiris' body up into 14 parts and spreads them across the world. Isis gains the support of her sister, Nephthys, who is also Set's wife, and she and Nephthys set off around to find the different parts of the body, which of course they find 13, because the last piece has been devoured by a fish. So sorceress that Isis is, she manifests the most incredible golden phallus, and she places it on the body of Osiris. She transforms herself into a bird, a kite, and circles the statue round and round and round until she brings Osiris back to life. And there she copulates with him and becomes pregnant with Horus, the god of the sky and the god of war. And so we petition the solar barge to take one last journey with Cedarwood, to travel across the Am Duat, where the swarm of the dead hums, and to travel to Eastern Europe, to bring solace to those who are bereaved, to bring peace to the souls of the dead, to bring healing of the guilt of the Russians who feel drawn into someone else's fight. To travel to the government offices in Ukraine to give them stamina to keep up with the fight. To Russia to pacify the aggression and to understand the war might not always be the answer. And so bring the part of you that resonates most with cedarwood. Protection, wisdom, power of the ancestors, reverence of sacrifice, spiritual intelligence, calm, peace, resting. Finally, as we travel across the night in the solar barge, we start to see the hope of the sun emerge. So we leave the cedar tree, heading back into our own reality, feeling our fingers, wriggling our toes, sinking back into our haunches, and imagine a beautiful golden hexagon reaching up to encase us and protect us, and a beautiful shower of silver nectar to clean off our aura, moving away any negativity, anything that doesn't belong to us, making us feel clean and strong and protected. And when you're ready, open your eyes.